Emotions are among the most familiar yet puzzling aspects of human life. We all know what it feels like to laugh until our stomach hurts, to cry from heartbreak, or to feel our pulse quicken in a moment of fear. And yet, when we pause to ask what emotions really are, the answer is far from simple. They are both intensely personal and deeply universal. Every human being, across every culture and time period, has experienced joy, sadness, anger, love, and fear. But the precise nature of these feelings, where they come from, why they arise, and how they shape our lives, remains a fascinating scientific and philosophical question. For centuries, emotions were viewed as mysterious forces beyond human control. Ancient thinkers like Plato considered them disruptive to reason, something to be restrained. Others, like Aristotle, believed emotions could be valuable guides when properly balanced. Across religions and cultures, emotions were often described as spiritual or moral states, revealing the soul's condition rather than the body's. Modern science, however, paints a more complex picture. Neuroscience reveals that emotions are not random outbursts but carefully orchestrated processes involving the brain, body, and environment. They are shaped by electrical signals, chemical messengers, and even evolutionary instincts designed to help us survive. Yet they are also influenced by language, culture, and personal experience, meaning no two people feel an emotion in exactly the same way. What makes emotions so mysterious is this dual nature. They are at once biological and psychological, automatic yet interpretable, universal yet deeply individual. Consider how a single emotion, say, sadness, can manifest as quiet tears, deep reflection, or even creative inspiration, or how love can feel like warmth in the chest one moment and like vulnerability the next. Even with today's cutting-edge science, emotions defy easy definition. Are they states of the brain, bodily reactions, social constructions, or all of these at once? Perhaps the real mystery is that emotions live at the intersection of mind, body, and meaning, making them central to what it means to be human. To study emotions, then, is not just to understand the mechanics of the brain, but to explore the essence of human life itself. To understand why we feel emotions, we must go back millions of years, to a time long before humans built civilizations, wrote stories, or developed language. Emotions are not modern inventions, they are ancient tools of survival, carved into our biology by the relentless pressures of evolution. Every fear, every spark of joy, every surge of anger carries within it the echo of our ancestors' struggles to live, protect, and reproduce. Emotions as survival mechanisms. At their core, emotions are adaptive responses. Imagine a prehistoric human encountering a predator on the savannah. There is no time to think through options or debate logically what to do. Instead, fear surges instantly, heart pounding, muscles tightening, breath quickening. This emotion drives immediate action. Fight, flee, or freeze. Those who experienced this rapid, automatic response had a better chance of surviving and passing on their genes. Similarly, anger evolved as a mechanism for defense and competition. When resources were scarce or social boundaries threatened, anger prepared the body for confrontation. On the other hand, love and affection developed to promote bonding between parents and children and later between mates. Without the emotional pull of attachment, human offspring, who are born more dependent than most animals, would not have survived. Darwin's insight. Charles Darwin was one of the first to propose that emotions are not random but deeply rooted in biology. In his 1872 book, The Expression of the Emotions in Man and Animals, he argued that facial expressions, smiling, frowning, raising the eyebrows, are universal signals inherited from our evolutionary past. A smile, for example, may have originated as a non-threatening gesture, while baring teeth in anger resembles animal displays of dominance. Darwin's observations suggested that emotions predate language as a form of communication. Long before humans could speak, emotions allowed them to warn others of danger, express submission, or signal readiness for cooperation. This universality is still evident today. Even babies born blind from birth smile, cry, and frown in the same way as sighted children, showing that emotional expression is biologically programmed rather than learned. Ancient brain structures. Modern neuroscience confirms Darwin's intuition. Many emotional processes are governed by ancient brain regions, particularly the limbic system, which includes the amygdala, hippocampus, and hypothalamus. These areas are shared across mammals and even reptiles, suggesting emotions are far older than humanity itself. For instance, the amygdala's role in fear is so deeply ingrained that animals from rats to humans display similar responses to threats. In experiments, rats emit ultrasonic laughter when tickled, and dogs wag their tails with joy, behaviors that hint at a continuity of emotional life across species. Emotions, then, are not uniquely human. They are part of a biological heritage stretching back through the tree of life. Social emotions and cooperation. But while basic emotions like fear, anger, and pleasure are common across animals, humans evolved a richer emotional palette due to our highly social nature. Living in groups required not just survival instincts but mechanisms for cooperation, trust, and empathy. Emotions such as guilt, shame, and pride may seem abstract, but they serve vital social functions. Guilt encourages individuals to repair relationships after wrongdoing. Pride motivates achievement and signals competence. Empathy fosters understanding and support within groups. These emotions helped humans build complex societies, bound together not just by logic but by shared feelings. Evolutionary psychologists argue that these social emotions acted as glue, ensuring group cohesion. A tribe where members felt empathy and loyalty was more likely to thrive than one where individuals acted purely in self-interest. In this sense, emotions are not only about survival of the individual but also survival of the community. Beyond survival, the expansion of meaning. As humans developed language, art, and culture, emotions expanded beyond survival and social coordination into the realm of meaning. Fear no longer applied only to predators. It could be projected onto abstract threats like death or the unknown. Love extended beyond family ties to include ideals, gods, and nations. Joy became tied not just to food or mating but to music, storytelling, and beauty. This expansion shows that emotions, while grounded in biology, are flexible. They evolved as survival tools but became woven into every aspect of human life. Today, the same circuits that once saved our ancestors from predators also allow us to experience awe at a sunset, heartbreak in a poem, or inspiration in a speech. The double-edged sword of ancient emotions. Yet there is a paradox. Emotions that once ensured survival can sometimes cause suffering in modern life. Anxiety, for example, evolved to keep us alert to threats, but in today's fast-paced, overstimulated world, it can spiral into chronic stress. Anger once helped protect resources but can now lead to destructive conflict. This mismatch between ancient emotional systems and modern environments is one reason emotional intelligence, learning to understand and regulate feelings, has become so crucial. The evolutionary origins of emotions reveal that they are not accidents or flaws in human design but finely tuned adaptations. They tell us what matters, warn us of danger, connect us to others, and give life depth. Without emotions, survival would have been impossible, but so too would art, love, and meaning. To feel is to inherit millions of years of evolutionary wisdom. Every time you laugh, cry, or fall in love, you are not just experiencing a moment. You are living the legacy of countless generations before you. If emotions are evolutionary gifts, then the brain is the stage on which those gifts are performed. Every fear, burst of joy, or pang of sadness originates in the brain, orchestrated by a network of structures that work in harmony. Contrary to the old idea that emotions arise from a single emotional center, modern neuroscience reveals that they emerge from complex interactions among multiple regions, each contributing its own piece to the emotional puzzle. The limbic system, the ancient core. At the heart of emotional processing lies the limbic system, one of the oldest parts of the brain in evolutionary terms. This system includes structures such as the amygdala, hippocampus, and hypothalamus, regions humans share with many animals. The limbic system acts as an emotional command center, rapidly interpreting stimuli and triggering responses before we have time to think. The amygdala, the alarm bell. The amygdala is perhaps the most famous emotional structure. It detects threats and assigns emotional significance to events. When you hear a sudden noise, the amygdala lights up, triggering fear and preparing your body to react. Importantly, it works so quickly that it often bypasses conscious thought. Sometimes we feel afraid before we even know why. The hippocampus, memory's gatekeeper. While the amygdala responds to immediate threats, the hippocampus provides context by linking emotions to memories. A smell that reminds you of childhood or a song that triggers heartbreak works through this connection. Without the hippocampus, emotions would lack the depth of personal meaning. The hypothalamus, the body regulator. The hypothalamus connects emotions to the body by controlling hormones and the autonomic nervous system. It regulates heart rate, blood pressure, and stress responses, ensuring that feelings are not just mental experiences but full body states. The prefrontal cortex, the rational regulator. Sitting at the front of the brain, the prefrontal cortex plays a more sophisticated role. While the limbic system reacts automatically, the prefrontal cortex evaluates and regulates. It allows you to calm down after a scare, reconsider anger before lashing out, or weigh long-term goals against short-term desires. This region is central to emotional regulation, giving humans the ability to reflect on and shape their feelings rather than being controlled by them. Interestingly, different parts of the prefrontal cortex serve different functions. The ventromedial prefrontal cortex helps integrate emotional experiences into decision-making, while the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex is involved in rational thought and self-control. Together, they balance instinct and reason, creating the uniquely human capacity for emotional intelligence. The insula, the seat of gut feelings. Another key player is the insula, a region buried deep within the cerebral cortex. The insula monitors internal bodily signals, heartbeat, breathing, stomach sensations, and translates them into conscious feelings. This is why emotions are often felt physically. A racing heart becomes anxiety. A warm chest becomes love. The insula bridges body and mind, grounding emotions in sensation. The reward system, circuits of joy and motivation. Not all emotions are about fear and survival. The brain also has circuits devoted to pleasure and reward. The mesolimbic dopamine pathway, which includes the nucleus accumbens, generates feelings of joy, motivation, and anticipation. When you eat delicious food, accomplish a goal, or fall in love, dopamine floods the system, reinforcing behaviors that bring pleasure. This reward system evolved to encourage life-sustaining activities, but in modern life, it can be hijacked by addictive substances or habits that overstimulate dopamine release. Understanding this circuitry helps explain both the highs of human motivation and the struggles of compulsive behavior. The role of neurochemicals. Beyond brain structures, emotions are shaped by chemical messengers, neurotransmitters, and hormones that influence how feelings are experienced. Dopamine fuels pleasure, reward, and drive. Serotonin stabilizes mood and contributes to a sense of well-being. Oxytocin fosters trust, bonding, and love, often called the cuddle hormone. Cortisol heightens stress and anxiety, preparing the body for challenges. Endorphins reduce pain and create feelings of euphoria. These chemicals create the textures of emotion, turning neural activity into the lived experience of happiness, sadness, or excitement. Imbalances in these systems can lead to disorders such as depression, anxiety, or mood instability. Left and right hemispheres, emotional asymmetry. Another fascinating discovery is that the two hemispheres of the brain process emotions differently. The left hemisphere is more active during positive emotions such as joy and enthusiasm, while the right hemisphere is more involved in negative emotions like fear and sadness. This asymmetry suggests that emotional life is not just about which regions are active, but also how they are balanced across the brain. Emotions as whole brain experiences. Ultimately, emotions cannot be pinned down to a single spot. They are whole brain experiences, weaving together perception, memory, body signals, and social context. Feeling joy, for example, may involve the amygdala recognizing a positive stimulus, the hippocampus recalling a happy memory, the nucleus accumbens releasing dopamine, and the prefrontal cortex savoring the moment. This integration makes emotions rich, flexible, and deeply human. They are not just reflexes but complex states that shape thought, decision-making, and behavior. Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio has argued that without emotions, rational thinking itself breaks down. Patients with brain damage to emotional circuits often struggle with even simple choices, showing that feelings are not enemies of reason but its partners. The brain's emotional symphony. The brain does not simply produce emotions. It conducts them like a symphony, with different instruments playing their parts. The amygdala provides urgency, the prefrontal cortex adds control, the hippocampus weaves in memory, and the insula grounds it all in sensation. Together, they create the lived experience of being human. Understanding where emotions are born shows us that they are not random storms of feeling but carefully coordinated brain states. They are biology and meaning intertwined, a dance between instinct and reflection, chemistry and consciousness. And while emotions may begin in the brain, their effects ripple outward, shaping our bodies, relationships, and the very fabric of our lives. When we think of emotions, we often picture them as experiences of the mind, thoughts of fear, waves of sadness, bursts of joy. Yet anyone who has ever felt a racing heart before an important exam, a lump in the throat during grief, or butterflies in the stomach when in love knows that emotions are not confined to the brain. They are embodied experiences, deeply rooted in the nervous system, hormones, and even the gut. This physical dimension is what makes emotions feel so real and often so overwhelming. The nervous system, a highway of feelings. The connection between emotions and the body begins with the autonomic nervous system, ANS, which regulates involuntary functions such as heart rate, breathing, and digestion. The ANS has two branches. The sympathetic nervous system triggers the fight or flight response. When you're afraid or angry, it floods the body with adrenaline, speeds up the heartbeat, and sharpens the senses, priming you for action. The parasympathetic nervous system provides the counterbalance, often called rest and digest. After the danger passes, it slows the heart, relaxes muscles, and restores calm. This push and pull between sympathetic arousal and parasympathetic relaxation explains why emotions can swing us from agitation to serenity, often within minutes. Hormones, chemical messengers of emotion. Emotions are also carried through the bloodstream by hormones. When the hypothalamus detects an emotional stimulus, it signals the pituitary gland and adrenal glands to release chemicals that prepare the body to react. Adrenaline surges during fear or excitement, increasing heart rate and blood pressure. Cortisol sustains the stress response, ensuring the body has enough energy to cope with challenges. Oxytocin is released in moments of bonding, promoting trust, attachment, and love. Endorphins act as natural painkillers and mood boosters, producing euphoria after exercise or laughter. These hormones make emotions visceral. Fear is not just a thought. It is adrenaline pumping through veins. Love is not just an idea. It is oxytocin binding people together, mapping emotions in the body. In recent years, scientists have sought to map where different emotions are felt physically. A landmark study in Finland asked participants to color areas of the body where they experienced various emotions. The results revealed striking patterns. Anger lit up the chest, arms, and head, reflecting readiness for confrontation. Fear concentrated in the chest and stomach, linked to rapid breathing and digestive shutdown. Sadness was felt in the chest and limbs, producing heaviness and fatigue. Happiness spread warmth across the entire body, energizing and uplifting. These findings confirm what we intuitively know. Emotions are embodied, leaving distinct physical imprints. The gut-brain connection. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of the body's role in emotion is the gut-brain axis. The gut contains over 100 million neurons, sometimes called the second brain, and communicates directly with the brain through the vagus nerve. This system not only regulates digestion but also influences mood and emotional well-being. For example, the gut produces about 90% of the body's serotonin, a neurotransmitter crucial for mood regulation. Stress can disrupt gut function, leading to stomach aches, while gut imbalances can contribute to anxiety or depression. This two-way communication explains why we speak of gut feelings or butterflies in the stomach. They are not metaphors but reflections of real biological processes. Why emotions feel overwhelming? Because emotions engage the whole body, they can feel all-consuming. Anxiety doesn't just occupy the mind. It speeds up the heart, tightens the chest, and knots the stomach. Grief drains energy, lowers immunity, and even causes physical aches. Joy floods the body with energy, often leading to laughter, movement, or tears of happiness. This full-body involvement ensures that emotions cannot be ignored. They demand attention, motivating us to act. Fear pushes us to escape danger. Sadness encourages us to seek comfort. Love drives us to connect with others. In this way, the physical dimension of emotion makes them powerful forces guiding behavior. The downside of embodied emotions. While this integration of mind and body is adaptive, it can also backfire in modern life. The stress response that once saved our ancestors from predators now activates in response to emails, deadlines, or traffic jams. Chronic activation of the sympathetic nervous system leads to high cortisol levels, which can harm immunity, increase blood pressure, and contribute to anxiety disorders. Similarly, emotional suppression, holding back tears or swallowing anger, doesn't eliminate the body's response. Instead, it can manifest as muscle tension, headaches, or digestive problems. This shows that ignoring emotions is not only psychologically unhealthy but also physically damaging. Harnessing the body to regulate emotion. The good news is that because emotions flow through the body, we can use the body to regulate them. Practices like deep breathing, yoga, and progressive muscle relaxation activate the parasympathetic nervous system, calming emotional intensity. Exercise releases endorphins and reduces stress hormones, lifting mood. Even simple actions like smiling can send feedback signals to the brain, subtly influencing how we feel. Mind-body techniques demonstrate that emotions are not just things that happen to us but processes we can engage with. By tuning into physical sensations, racing heart, tense shoulders, shallow breath, We can learn to recognize and manage emotions before they spiral. The physical reality of feelings. The body is not a passive recipient of emotions, but an active participant. From the rush of adrenaline in fear to the warmth of oxytocin in love, emotions are written into heartbeat, breath, and gut. This embodiment makes them powerful, unforgettable, and impossible to ignore. Understanding the body's role reveals why emotions feel so immediate and intense. They are not abstract states floating in the mind, but physical realities woven into the fabric of life. To feel, then, is not just to think. It is to embody, to live, and to experience the world with the whole self. Emotions may be universal, but how we experience, express, and even interpret them is profoundly shaped by culture and psychology. The joy that bursts forth in laughter, the shame that burns in silence, the grief that demands ritual. All of these are not only biological events, but also social and psychological constructs. To understand why we feel the way we do, we must explore how culture molds our emotional lives and how our individual psychology interprets them. Culture as the lens of emotion. From birth, humans are immersed in cultural environments that provide scripts for how to feel and behave. These emotional rules vary across societies, teaching us which emotions are acceptable, which should be suppressed, and how they ought to be expressed. For example, in many Western cultures, individualism is valued, and emotions like pride, excitement, and personal happiness are often celebrated. By contrast, in East Asian cultures that emphasize collectivism, emotions are viewed through the lens of harmony and social balance. Feelings like shame or modesty carry more weight, while open displays of anger or pride may be discouraged. This doesn't mean that people in different cultures don't feel the same emotions. They do, but the way those emotions are understood, displayed, and valued shifts dramatically. Culture acts like a filter, shaping not just the outward expression but also the internal significance of what we feel. Display rules, the hidden code of expression. Psychologists refer to display rules as the culturally learned norms about how emotions should be expressed. A classic example comes from research showing that Japanese participants were more likely to mask negative emotions, like disgust, in public, especially in the presence of authority figures, while American